I would use a term. It's more about, look up, look down, look sideways, and look out. Look up is, what is the strategic direction that the company wants to take. Look sideways is look at your peers, learn from them as much as possible, and look outside is, you can take inspiration from other players who are in the market. The funny thing about gamification is that it's a concept that has traveled far and wide, and people say that, they need gamification in their product without actually looking at what business metrics are they trying to influence. But उन लोगों का क्या जो relatively कम खेलते हैं पर हर रोज खेलते हैं. How do you reward them? Because that is actual loyalty. They are coming to your platform 4 days, 5 days a week.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Behind the Feature. Today we've got a rock star guest joining us, Himanshu Singhal. Himanshu is leading the flagship product at Freshworks for one of India's most successful B2B SaaS companies. But that's not all. He has some serious cred in the fast-paced world of mobile gaming, having previously head product retention for Mobile Premier League, which is MPL as we all know it, as well as he's headed the marketplace fulfillment products for Flipkart, which is India's leading e-commerce marketplace. This episode isn't just your typical 101. We'll deep dive into Himanshu's fascinating career journey from B2B to B2C and back to B2B and explore the secrets of crafting engaging experiences across both the worlds and what it's like to lead the product charge at Freshworks. Then we'll pull back the curtain on the fascinating differences between user engagement strategies in B2B and B2C. If you're a product manager in B2B or B2C space, or anyone interested in product development, user engagement, and building thriving online communities, this episode is just for you. Welcome to the show, Himanshu. I'm so excited to have you here. You worked in over 7 companies in the last 15 years, of which 4 alone have been in the product management space. Can you share your story with us?
Thanks, Diksha. I think 7 was not planned. And I think it happened over a period of time. Things evolved. The interesting part is I started from a product management role, though it was not called officially as a product management. I did my BTech from Metallurgy. I thought I wanted to get into a core role, but in the core manufacturing giant, I actually took up a software engineer role. And that software engineer role, I used to go out, meet internal customers, write the code on Oracle and build products from them. I didn't know the importance of iterations and the interaction with the customers. Only formally when I in 2016 or so, when I actually took on the formal title of product manager, did I realize what entails it. And over a period of the last 10 years, I have had a huge run and interesting experiences with various different sectors.
Okay, what are 3 things that one needs to do to become a PM?
First of all, define product management for yourself. In my mind, product management is solving problems at scale. You may be doing that activity on a day-to-day basis. You may not have the formal PM title, but if you're already solving problems at scale, that really helps you slide into the product management role whenever it comes your way. The second is be more conversant with data. And it's not just about looking at dashboards, looking at metrics that you're monitoring, but go deeper into developing hypothesis, finding out data that would validate that hypothesis. And if you don't have enough data, enough information, don't go by opinions of other people. Rather, go and test it yourself. I am sure the organization would provide enough risk taking so that you can go and experiment with features. The third, I would say, is work with other stakeholders. They would have plethora of understanding and information and insights around the problem. You can learn and actually accelerate your journey of solving problems by working closely with other people. You may not take up the solution that is being suggested from their side, but at least it helps you immerse into the problem really deep.
And if you had to give us your career hack that you've used to jump so many amazing companies?
As you can see, I've kind of transitioned from many different companies. I've dabbled in management consulting, in manufacturing, in software development. But one of the things that I've learned is be ahead of the times. And for that, you need to take risks. There is that comfort zone that you can continue working on your area of expertise, but it gives me another level of thrill when I move to a new area where I have very little context at the beginning.
You're preaching to the choir. I think I've definitely kept jumping without having any idea what that role entail, but it's always turned out to be exciting and interesting. Can you share about what does Freshworks do?
Freshworks is a cloud-based SaaS company. It was started in 2010 by 2 founders based out of Chennai. They had big dreams of building a global products company, and it actually had the name Freshdesk, which is the product that I'm leading at that point of time. Only in 2017, the company became Freshworks. And now every year, it is adding on. It actually got listed in NASDAQ in 2021 September. It took about 10 years for the company to reach 200 million revenue. Now, since then, it has been adding 100 million every year, and it became one
Wow.
of the biggest successes of Indian SaaS company. And that's where Freshworks plays an important integral role in solving the customer solutions and the employee problems by through the cloud-based solution that we have.
So Freshworks listing on the Nasdaq was such a pride moment for all Indians. I think I definitely want to call that out. Like for everyone, all of us working in the tech world in India, it was like amazing to see that. You mentioned you lead Freshdesk at Freshwork. So can you share a bit about what is Freshdesk and what is your role and team?
Let's imagine that you are using any consumer tech app and you have a problem. You will go on to the customer support and you would want to talk to the agent so that your problem gets solved. Now, if you magnify this, then there are many channels through which customers may want to reach out, whether it is email or whether it is WhatsApp. There are all sort of social media channels. What the product eventually does is it, on one hand, it solves for the customer experience, but also solves for the admin agent and the analytics around it, which eventually turns into a solution which improves the agent productivity and the admin productivity as well.
And what is your role, Himanshu, at Freshworks?
I am leading the Freshdesk, which is about roughly 300 million revenue, almost half of the revenue of Freshworks. Now, my role entails that we find out solutions using various tools. Even AI is now being used to improve the productivity of agents. And how can we help meet the customer's goals even better? Let's say they have metrics around support resolution time or CSAT. How can our products help the customers achieve their goals while we help them reduce their costs?
Can you just like share an example of how does this work?
Let's say you send an email, you have the support email address. You will send an email listing down your issue. Now that issue needs to be assigned to some particular agent who has to look into it. So
Correct.
the first interface will be how does that routing take place to a particular agent. Next is
Okay.
how do you provide interface to the agent so that he can see all the issues that he needs to address and provide some level of prioritization within it. When he gets into an issue, can he see a summary of all the discussions that have happened in the past with the customer, kind of get a unified customer view? And then now what we are doing is we are even suggesting a response that the agent can send to the customer. It's a recommendation, and we kind of enable all other relevant information that the agent can use to solve that ticket.
Let's kick off things with a big question. You have experience in both B2B with Flipkart and Freshworks and B2C with MPL. Can you tell us what are some of the differences in these two worlds?
Let me start with B2B. In B2B, the key model of revenue is subscription. You're getting the customers, they are subscribing to you. You can have various plans like monthly, quarterly, annual plans. And you may even lock in for 3 years. In that case, the customers are not only interested in your current roadmap or what product exists, but they are also interested in your future roadmap.
Okay.
They're going to take calls based on that. It's a thorough, left brain thinking of, what are the features that we need, what are the areas or workflows that are going to get satisfied, not. But in case of B2C, it's very driven by how the product exists today, whether it is solving for retention, whether it is solving for engagement problems. Customers have various kind of choices. In B2C, they may place one order with one platform, but may do another transaction with another platform. The switching costs are relatively lower.
Correct.
The other different point of difference in B2B is you have a lot of product depth. The customer support is extremely important, and the reliability of the product is very important as well. In B2C, you want to engage using gamification. You want to use rewards as a lever for retention as well. And eventually, you want to build some level of switching cost for the consumer, which is relatively hard to do. But that's something that most of the companies try to incorporate. In B2B, you need to reach a certain scale to obviously attain profitability. The same problem lies with B2C as well. But you are making revenue from day one. The typical ticket size is very high in case of B2B, while in B2C, you eventually have a sliver of the customers who are contributing to most of your revenue. Most of the other customers may churn or they are not actively engaging on the platform.
So, if I have to summarize, the three broad differences are one is the switching cost that gets involved between B2B and B2C. The second one is the customer depth or support, that expectation that comes in both of these products. And the third piece that you called out was obviously, the quality versus the volume game, right? One is like you get revenue from day one versus the other, it's more volume based. So,
One additional point would be B2B is slightly high touch, B2C is slightly low touch. In case of B2B, you will take probably in-person feedback from customers. In B2C, you would want to have in-product feedback mechanisms like NPS, CSAT, and various other methods to identify whether the customers are satisfied or not. The retention numbers, the
Right.
data anyway provides that much of evidence as well.
So gamification we've touched on, and I want you were instrumental in building the rewards program that has become a key pillar for MPL. So I get you said human motivation is a factor, but what were the gamification elements did you leverage, and how did it impact the user retention?
The funny thing about gamification is that it's a concept that has traveled far and wide, and people say that they need gamification in their product without actually looking at what business metrics are they trying to influence. And the funny thing is, the product that I worked on was where we didn't start from any kind of thought around gamification. What we are trying to do is, first of all, look at the data. What are the customers really facing problems on? So we tried actually two different approaches. One approach is, can we bring some level of recognition or status within the leaderboards? The second approach is, can we do completely different approach, no leaderboards, have a personalized journey of rewards where as you play, keep on playing more and more, you earn certain number of points and you keep on getting gratification in terms of rewards. The first approach didn't work, but the second approach eventually did work because of certain elements that we introduced that became very central, and that's what we call gamification also, in terms of what are the core motivation factors that we are trying to drive. Every action that the user takes, it kind of takes away some of the motivation of the user, so you have to give it back, pump it back in some manner.
आपने बोला two approaches करे आपने. One was the leaderboard. It didn't work. Why didn't it work in your opinion?
It's kind of related to the persona. So it's important to understand what type of users are playing these games. You kind of remove these outliers which are contributing to the maximum amount of revenue, go with the masses, and you devise that is this experiment working or not working. And when you actually see, it may work for mass of players, but when you actually take it to the overall base of players, most of the times we find that it doesn't work. And the reason is we have removed those outliers in the initial set of experiments. Now, in the case of leaderboard, what we tried was we had a vertical leaderboard where all the players can play in a single leaderboard, and we can have various kind of criteria and qualifications of how do you earn points and who wins. We tried a more horizontal leaderboard which has less number of players. We had levels. If you are in the top 2 or 3 of your leaderboard, you move to the next level which has higher amount of rewards. So we had thousands of such leaderboards running at a point of time. Less number of leaderboards at the
Thousands.
highest, tens of thousands of leaderboards that were running at a point of time, because we had millions of users, right? And if you have a leaderboard, let's say of size of 10, then you will generate a large number of
Yeah.
such leaderboards at a single point. The challenge is when you run smaller leaderboards, the prize money also reduces because you have to give distribute it to multiple leaderboards. And the impact of that is, if there's a small set of players who are driven more by the cash and the money that is going to get generated, they will not be driven if the prize money is small. And
Okay.
that's where the leaderboard didn't work for the people who actually eventually mattered. And it's more driven by the metrics also that we were looking at. If we were only looking at more number of games being played, yes, more number of games are being played, but are these games being played at a higher price point or a lower price point? That's what makes all the difference compared to amount of spends that we are doing on the leaderboards.
Can you explain how did you get inspired to create this second approach? Because this is not normally done.
The second approach had, first of all, a business metric around it. What were we trying to move as a metric? And that metric was, okay, we noticed that certain players who are contributing a large amount of revenue, they are still there on the platform, but their activity is reducing. So it's not that we just want player retention. We want them to spend as much as they were probably spending in the previous weeks. Now, why are they not spending? Some of the core reasons were, okay, they don't get feel that we are recognizing them as a platform when they're coming back. They feel they are not getting the reward. There is no point of fighting for leaderboards if they are not going to win, if only few percentages are going to win. So the idea was, how do we distribute this reward to more number of players, and can we create some sense of status, recognition, achievement? People want to feel accomplished. How can we give that sense? Eventually, we kind of created various levels where all the players would start from the lowest level. They'll keep on earning points as they play more, and the gratification would come at multiple stages. It would come when they reach a milestone within a level. It would come when they move to a higher level. And as they move to higher levels, they will start associating with the tier they are in with the other players who are also participating in that tier. And after that, we added privileges, which were non-monetary in nature. Let's say customer support, account manager. These are some of the privileges that help even solidify stickiness. Because if, however, it's not just about rewards, there was an element where which actually helped us a lot, which is more around loss avoidance. If you get to a certain level, if you don't maintain the same level of activity, you are going to move one level down and you're going to lose the privileges that you are getting on the higher level.
Correct.
And that's what is another motivation driver for players to continue to play.
So, Himanshu, how do you create differentiation between the tiers?
Let's say we kind of divided into, let's say, 8 or 9 levels.
9 levels?
9 levels. We knew already how many players are going to progress to what level. The interesting part was we didn't start with giving rewards. We just gave them gratification of as they are making progress, they are meeting certain milestones, they are moving on to the next levels, and then they will eventually get to a level where they will stay for a longer period of time.
But then, if you were not giving rewards, what were they getting to move to the next level?
The
Just a social
gratification, the
state,
recognition, the
just a
status
social
that they,
status.
and it's
Okay.
I think the milestones also we kind of design in a way that you they can get these milestones within 1 or 2 days of play.
Okay.
So they are constantly getting gratification by moving up. They are
Hmm.
seeing the feedback loops that as they are playing each game, they are getting more points, they are moving to the next levels. And we would have seen that in our lives also, right? If you start on a journey, you start defining points against certain actions that you want to do, and you start doing those actions, you start feeling motivated. There's no monetary award related to it. It's just that there's an internal, intrinsic motivation to do a certain activity. And that's what was the first key driver for players to start engaging. In fact, interesting part was we didn't get prime real estate on the app. We didn't have a very large engineering team to kind of build this solution, and the other engineering teams were kind of busy in their own product. They couldn't spare any bandwidth for us. Now, as a platform product, we needed to have touch points with each as well, right? So the area that we leveraged was we wanted to give a sense of empowerment to players that if they need to progress, they can play any game on the platform. Any
Hmm.
new game come in, we can plug that game in. They can become part of the loyalty, and by playing any game, they keep on accumulating points and they can move forward. And that sense of progression is what was missing in leaderboards or in the previous motivation drivers. This is what helped people to start getting clued. They started visiting very frequent on the page that was kind of hidden in one of the sections. Once we had good amount of frequency, that's when the other teams also started giving a little weight, putting some quantity of rewards like cash rewards, the contests that we can build on top of it. And once we were able to build certain experiments around how much rewards to give, the tuning came in later on how much rewards to give. But the practice of increasing the rewards motivated the players even more. And we started seeing that whatever spends that we are doing on the rewards, we are getting much more out of it. And that is what enabled all the other teams to rally around this feature and build more capabilities around it. And that had a multiplier effect in general.
So you could say that even though in the beginning you didn't have rewards, just creating a social status in terms of like gamifying that element gave enough motivation to the users to come back daily and move up the tiers.
Correct. And that is a realization that actually exists even in B2B as well. We are having high touch point with customers. We are formed customer advisory boards where, there are certain privileges of customers who get to know, they get a sneak peek on what features are we building, right? And they get to participate in the brainstorming session as well. That's also a motivation driver for some of these customers to stick with the platform. And they are usually very high revenue drivers for us.
Okay, that's cool. What I'm going to do is do a quick rapid fire with you, Himanshu. You got to answer my questions in one word only. So, can you share one surprising user psychology hack that works both in the B2B and B2C world?
Status and recognition.
Three common traits among great PMs.
Curiosity, compassion, and creativity.
Three mindset shifts that can enable faster growth for PMs.
One, slightly look forward, which is more like an inversion technique. If your feature was already built and if it has failed, what would be the reason? Second is don't look at the opinions of other people alone. Build your own conviction around ideas. Sometimes the strike rate of certain product teams is lower because they go by the direction of other teams and they don't build their own conviction around the customer problem. I would say these are two very important parameters. Third is obviously partner with other teams, especially the analytics and the business teams.
Okay. Dream collaboration. If you could collaborate with one person, living or dead, to design a product, who would it be and why?
I would give two. One would be Steve Jobs because he built such beautiful products, not just one, but so many. The second I would say is more India centric, where if you look at Arogya Setu app, the NPCI building UPI, probably the PMO office is one area where I would want to partner with to build apps for India.
Very interesting. And what's your one tip for someone starting to use data to understand user behavior?
One, start from hypothesis of the problem, then determine what is the data required to validate that hypothesis, then look at what data is available. If you start from seeing the data first, you will get bias towards deriving outcomes from it without looking at what gaps exist in the data itself.
Okay, so form your hypothesis before you start looking at the data. Where were some of these inspirations coming to you from, Himanshu? Because I know in the beginning you said innovation is very important and think differently.
I would use a term. It's more about look up, look down, look sideways, and look out. Here,
Okay.
one of the look down is look at what other people are doing. Look up is what is the strategic direction that the company wants to take. Look sideways is look at your peers, learn from them as much as possible, and look outside is you can take inspiration from other players who are in the market.
Okay. Thank you so much for being on the show, Himanshu. I've had a lot of fun, and this has been great.